Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna do a Q&A because what better way to get through more of your questions than to do it all in one video. So I got my coffee, I got my laptop, and I'm gonna sit down and do my absolute best to answer as many as I can. And hopefully I'll be able to answer them in a way that will help you guys because these are real questions from real brides and maybe you guys have the same questions. Then I'll come back and I'll share my thoughts with you guys. Okay, so I finished putting all my thoughts down and I'm ready to get back to answering all of your questions, except now Cooper really wants to go outside and there is construction happening on my street, so I'm not sure if you guys can hear it. So I might need to wait until they're done before I can come back and finish this video. In the meantime, I'm gonna get something to eat, I'm gonna take Cooper out, and then I will be back to share my thoughts with you guys. So the first question that I received, this question is from Maureen. She wants to know how to find vendors who will return emails and calls. Many are already booked for 2021 and or will only work with preferred planners. Preferred planners are also booked or not returning calls. It's not a popular date or weekend. Seems like everyone wants to work with the brides who can spend at least $5,000 per vendor, even for a micro wedding. Okay, so first of all, I'm so sorry to hear that you're struggling with that, Maureen. I'm definitely a little surprised. I know that 2021 dates are definitely booking up, but not hearing back from vendors is definitely unusual. They're getting back to you within 48 hours, 2 business days, and that's pretty expected. If it's taking them a week or longer to get back to you, that's definitely a concern and you probably wouldn't want to work with that vendor anyway. So there are vendors at all price points. It's definitely shocking to me that you can't find vendors that are willing to work with you for less than $5,000. So what I would recommend is maybe they're not getting back to you because you mentioned that you don't have a high budget. So if you go into a conversation with a vendor and you say, hey, I have a really low budget, they might think right off the bat they're not a good fit and they might be spending more of their time conversing with brides that didn't say that have a higher budget. So if you have a very strict budget, what you should do is have a budget for each of your vendors. So let's say that you have $1,000 to spend for a DJ. Instead of asking any DJ and saying that you're low budget, instead you can say, hey, I'm looking for a DJ that can accommodate me for under $1,000. Then you're gonna start to hear from DJs that are willing to work with you because they know that right off the bat that money is not going to be a factor. Maybe their typical price is $1,200 or $1,500, but they know that if they slim down their services that they're offering you and maybe they can do less hours, they might be able to work with you within your budget. One way to find the vendors that are going to be a good fit for you is to go on your local Facebook groups. Local groups can be really helpful because a lot of vendors are on those groups and a lot of brides are on those groups that have maybe had similar budgets. They might be able to give you a little bit more specific advice as to who to reach out to. But when you are talking to these vendors, I definitely recommend having a set budget in mind. So hopefully that helps. Don't lose hope. I really hope it works out for you and that you can find the vendors that you're looking for on your date within your budget. Question number 2. Lindsay wants to know, are chargers really that important? Like, actually. So I love this question. When I was planning my wedding, I never really understood the hype of chargers either. I knew I pinned a lot of place settings that had chargers, but I didn't really understand chargers until I got more into wedding planning. So chargers don't serve a physical purpose. So don't feel like you're obligated from like an etiquette perspective or anything like that to have chargers. From a budget perspective, it's definitely one way that you can save costs if you forego the chargers. But I will say though, from a wedding design perspective, it definitely makes the look. If you go on Pinterest and you look up pictures, and maybe I can even post some of them here, most of them are going to have chargers because they really do make the look of the wedding more like a wedding. It's more elegant, it's more formal. Even casual weddings can really transform the look. So highly recommend chargers. If you need to cut costs and chargers are not an option for you, then I would just say spice up the place setting somehow. You could use a sprig of greenery on the plate that can add a little bit of a pizzazz. You can do something cute with your napkins. Maybe you can do a really cute DIY napkin ring. That's another thing that you can do to add a little bit of dimension to your place setting. But chargers definitely bring the whole look together. So if you can do chargers, I highly recommend it. But no, they are definitely not required. Question number 3 comes from Sabrina. Sabrina wants to know day of, what to expect and how to plan out and time all the craziness of that day. The ceremony, first dances, cutting the cake. I'm stuck on getting everything organized for the day of. I feel like it will be a hectic mess if I just wing it. I don't want to miss out on those special little moments. So definitely love this question too. There is a lot to unpack here, so I will keep this a little bit more high level. But Sabrina, what it sounds like to me is that you're in desperate need of a day of timeline. A day of timeline essentially will lay out all of the things that are going to happen on your day, when they're going to happen, so that you don't miss out on all those little moments. If you can afford a wedding planner, they're definitely going to be able to help you make sure you remember everything. But there are a lot of online resources that can help you figure out your day of timeline. For example, this handy dandy book is something that you can buy off of Amazon. I could put the link down in the description below. It's from The Knot, which I'm not really a huge fan of The Knot as the website, but if you are more of a hands-on person and you want something more tangible, a book like this can go a long way in helping you get all of your thoughts down on paper. There are also a lot of online resources that you can purchase or download, so I can put some links down below on that as well. And I'm also working on some of my own proprietary templates to help you guys plan, so when I ever get around to finishing that, I will also add that to the description below. Definitely utilize those resources, definitely get a timeline put together, and make sure that you do your research if you don't have a wedding planner, and you should be able to make sure that you remember all of those details with the right resources. Okay, question number 4. With COVID, when is the proper time to send out save the dates, official invitations, etc.? Okay, so non-COVID, usually the rule is about a year. I usually like to do a year out because that allows your guests to plan and that allows your guests to make sure that they save your date. Especially if you're getting married November, December, that's right around the holiday season. So you definitely want to give your guests a little bit more time. I would say send them out as soon as you can. In terms of invitations, those are usually 6 to 8 weeks out. So you have a lot of time before you have to send out the formal invitations. But now let's talk about COVID real quick, because I know that was part of your question and that's obviously something that's on everyone's minds. I would plan as usual for now. So whatever your guest list is, do everything that you want to do for your wedding now. What I will say though is if you have a huge guest list, let's say your guest list is like 300 people and you're not sure if 300 people will be allowed by November or December of this year, you have a few options. If you know, okay, it's 300 guests or nothing, I'm going to have 300 guests at my wedding, I am not going to reduce my guest count. This is the final guest count. And if I cannot have the wedding of my dreams, I am pushing this off until 2022. Then plan as usual. You already have your answer. You don't have to worry about COVID in this case because you already know that you're not going to reduce your guest count at all. Now, if you know that you might reduce your guest count and maybe you have an A and B list, then maybe you only send out the save the dates to the people that you know you want to be at your wedding. Like those are the people that will make the guest list if you have to reduce your guest count. That way, you don't have to worry about sending invitations to people, but if restrictions start to lay off and you start to feel more comfortable and you want to send out those save the dates to those people closer to the 6-month mark, you have that opportunity without having to rescind that save the date if you have to reduce your guest count later. Or you can send save the dates out to everybody, but just know that if you do have to reduce your guest count later, you might have to send invitations to those people that you are rescinding that save the date from. Invitations, you should have a lot more time to be able to figure all that out. Hopefully you will know what your plan is within that 6 to 8 weeks period, so that way you don't have to worry so much about that yet. You know, you have plenty of time for that. I know that when my wedding got postponed, I purchased my invitations because I was feeling confident and I was like, all right, I'm gonna manifest, I'm gonna order the invitations with my July 25th, 2020 date, and I'm gonna go ahead and plan because I didn't want to be in a situation where I didn't send out the invitations and then my wedding could happen. Well, as soon as the invitations came is when everything really started to shut down and I was like, okay, so now what do I do with these invitations? So I turned those invitations into new save the dates with the new postponed date, and I crossed out the date on the invitation. Kind of like a joke, but it was also like I just couldn't even deal. So I was just like making use of my invitations. That was also the period of time that I tried calligraphy. I love calligraphy, but I definitely earned a lot more respect for calligraphy artists because it is hard, guys. So I can put a picture right there, but don't judge the calligraphy. I am definitely not an artist in that sense, but yeah, maybe I'll get there with practice. Who knows? Okay, question number 5. So Emily wants to know, we are having a super small ceremony. What is the best way to deal with people who think or insist that they should be invited or that they should have a +1? I just posted a video about how to narrow down your guest list last week. So if you're struggling with who to invite based on +1s, small guest list, definitely check that out. But if you're already at the point where you know, this is my guest list, I'm gonna stick to it, but how do I communicate that? That definitely gets a little bit more tricky. So if your wedding is during the pandemic, I would definitely fall on that a little bit more as an excuse. It's just the path to least resistance. You don't have to worry about people really questioning you because let's face it, we're in a pandemic. You can't invite everyone and their guests anymore. But if your wedding is a little bit farther out and you're wondering how to communicate it without having that as an excuse, you do have a few other options. So does your venue have capacity limitations? If that is something that you can fall back on, definitely use that as an excuse. You know, unfortunately, our venue can only hold so many people and we have to keep the guest list down in order to accommodate everybody. Great, awesome. Now, you can also use budget. The problem with budget is that it might be a lot easier for someone to try and say, oh, well, I'll pay for their plate. You know, I'll pay the extra $200 for their plate. So honesty is usually the best way to go in these situations unless you have an excuse that is really valid. So in terms of communicating it, I would definitely hold your ground, but you can be respectful. So you can say something like, can you hear the beeping? It's actually pretty good for a while. I'm gonna drink more coffee. I have no idea why I don't hold the handle, so don't even ask. You can say something like, my fiance and I want a small, intimate wedding, and therefore we're keeping it to immediate friends and family only. If you want to celebrate with us in the future, we would love to get together on a separate occasion. They're done. You're not telling them that they're not important to you. You're not telling them that they didn't make the cut, but you're also saying, hey, look, our wedding is going to be intimate. It's going to be small. This is our decision that we've made for our guest list, but if you want to celebrate us at a different time, we'd love that. I think it could really be that simple. Obviously, I've said this a million times in my other video about guest lists, but there's always exceptions. There's always that person that is just like cannot understand it, who gets frustrated and annoyed, and you just have to live with that. You can't make everybody happy. You just have to, accept that. In my opinion, people that care about you will respect that decision and will respect your wishes to have a smaller, more intimate ceremony. So I think that's everything for today. Thank you guys for asking me your wedding questions. I hope that was helpful for you. And if you guys have any other questions that didn't get addressed, please put them down below. Hit me with all of your questions. I will do my best to answer questions in the comments below, but I can also use it in a future video if it is a very popular topic or question. I'm happy to do that. So if you like watching this Q&A, please like this video, subscribe to my channel. All of that helps me make sure that I'm creating content that you guys like and enjoy. She's so cute. I put out new content each week, and I can't wait to share more wedding tips, tricks, and advice with you all. So until next time, happy wedding planning. Okay, no one ever told me that holding my camera would be this heavy. I also don't have any muscle mass whatsoever, so I think I need to work on that.